written and verbal, and I think it's important that we continue to have these conversations of where Trade 2.0 should look like and where we go from here. I know it's been a frustrating topic of conversation of late because all too often we sometimes let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And trade policy is complicated. There are a lot of different moving parts to it, and that we're trying to strike the right balance to, again, try to level the playing field for our workers, businesses, farmers, ranchers right here in this country so that we can be more effective competing in the global marketplace. That's crucial. But sometimes trade and trade agreements get conflated. And the fact is we only have 20 trade agreements right now throughout the world. And of those 20 nations, we're actually running a trade surplus in manufacturing, in agriculture, in services. I believe it's the countries we don't have a trade agreement with that get us into trouble, because that is just a race to the bottom with no rules, no laws, no standards to enforce. And it's important for us to be at the table, establishing those rules with our values, leading the way. And I want to get a little bit technical, and Mr. Ryan, I'm looking at you because I know you've been leaning in on this issue as those of us from dairy country have been, but in the context of NAFTA renegotiation, of course, we got the ultra-filtered class pricing system up in Canada that's given us some fits lately. And being from one of the dairy co-ops from the chairman's home state, just wondering to get your perspective, since I've been trying to wrap my head around it, any possibilities of breakthrough with Canada when it comes to some of our dairy export opportunities there, just what leverage we ultimately have. Of course, they got a supply management, a system up there that they're trying to protect. They've been very protective with high tariffs when it comes to dairy exports. We're trying to address this ultra-filtered milk issue now that wasn't even around or addressed adequately during NAFTA. I mean, well, really, what's the path forward here? Do we have any leverage at all that we can use effectively in this?
Yeah, been looking for that leverage, been looking for that path forward. I think one of making it a big issue, the bully pulpit that all of us can share in is one way. I think two, it looks pretty clearly that it'll be in violation of all their WTO commitments. The problem with that is that can take years to come through, and this is a real life issue right now. So, and I believe there's a whole number of other countries have stood up as saying it's in violation of WTO, agricultural ministers around the world, and so there's a collective body there too. Getting change is another matter. I believe the leverage of the United States is ultimately one of the things in a broader NAFTA negotiation that the United States needs to stand up and say, we're standing on this issue. You know it's going to be unwound eventually through to WTO. Do it right now because it's right, and it's what good trading partners should do. It's the best I can think of. As far as other leverage, open ears.
You know, I'm sure Washington State is the same as Wisconsin. Canada is a very crucial, important trading partner. In fact, 60% of our exports are either going into the Canadian or Mexican market right now, so we don't want to jeopardize that. But then again, we need to be able to feel assured that whatever system we have is a fair and balanced one that does level the playing field. And right now, we don't feel that that is happening as it relates to Canada. And I've been one of those voices, being from agriculture country, trying to bring that perspective in our farm bill deliberations, that we got to be sensitive to our own WTO obligations as well. And the Title I subsidy programs sometimes puts us in that box that counts against us. And we're trying to tee up another reauthorization of the Farm Bill, and I think it would be wise for us to be sensitive to our own trade obligations globally. Otherwise, this can boomerang against us. I mean, we're still frustrated with the problem we have with cotton subsidy and Brazil right now, who can level economic sanctions against us, but for a $500 million bribe going to the Brazilian cotton producers every year in order to keep them at bay. I mean, this is how crazy our own farm policy has become in this country. So, we look forward to working with you and others when it comes in the context of the next Farm Bill, that we're doing this in light of what this means for trade and our WTO obligations in that area as well.
Fully agree.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to participate here with the Trade Subcommittee, and certainly thank you to our entire panel, and especially our Nebraskan here today, as you have shared your insight and expertise. Obviously, U.S. agriculture and NAFTA, I'm repeating a lot of what has already been said, but U.S. agriculture has benefited tremendously under NAFTA. And I was wondering, Mr. Perdue, if you could perhaps tell us what you think makes American agriculture so competitive that, you know, that we would want to and have a product that's generally affordable and high quality